6:13. Look, March, it may seem like things are getting nicer out there, a little bit warmer, but it's also a time of very personal, chilling experiences for many people. It's known as the divorce month. My next guest, Tim Hoch, a legal strategist, a divorce attorney, HochLawFirm.com. Tim, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're based out of Dallas, right?
Yes, I am.
So I guess with March, that's a warm month for you guys by then, is it not?
You know, it's about 82 today, so that's pretty good.
That is amazing. We are literally half that. We're at 42 right now.
Oh, it's awful.
Now, would you generally, do you represent men or women in divorce cases?
Well, you know, I represent both, but my typical clientele is more female than male.
Okay. And why does that tend to be the case?
I don't know. Referrals, perhaps?
Do you take a different approach when you're representing a woman versus a man?
Well, in Texas in particular, and most of my divorces are folks who've been married at least 10 years or longer and don't have as many custody issues. I do more sort of larger marital estates. But I think it falls that way because once you sort of get in the niche of representing a certain gender, they refer you, right? They kind of run around together and refer their friends and acquaintances to you.
What percentage would you say have prenups of the divorces you deal with?
Oh, a very, very small percentage, maybe 10%, 15%.
And how often do they wish they had a prenup?
No, well, most of my clients are glad they don't, and I am too.
Why is that?
Well, because prenups really circumscribe your rights. I mean, especially if it's a large marital estate that's occurred over many years, they don't do enough to address everything that you've accumulated. They're just a little bit, they fall short of that. And then they really should be updated. If you've got a prenup, you really should update it every 3, 4, 5 years as your marital estate grows.
Okay, so if you've been married
they just fall short.
If you're together 10 plus years, 20, let's say even, what does it? Are you basically breaking it down 50-50? Is that where you want to end up?
Well, in Texas, we're a community property state, so they just say it's a just and equitable division. People confuse that with 50-50, but yeah, 50-50 split is what you go for, is what you aim for. The judges have some leeway on that in terms of interpretation, but that's typically what you do is split the community property. Okay,
and so why are these situations so hard if that's going to be the end point? Do people just simply not want to break things up evenly?
That is a damn good question, and I'll tell you, that's the one thing I fight all the time in my cases. I say, look, the law is the law, right? And so why don't we get to zero? Why don't we get to the end here? We know what it is. You know what it is. It's a matter of figuring out what the assets are and splitting them. Well, emotion trumps everything. Well, this was, my parents gave me this, or, you're not entitled to X, or we can't figure out what the value is in the stock that I have invested in my best friend's company. Well, I think it's worth zero. You think it's worth $1 million. Things like that. There's always valuation issues.
Okay, and then you get involved in all this minutia then yourself?
Oh yeah. Well, you usually have to hire a forensic accountant or somebody who's a valuation expert. But yeah, those are where the big battles are waged.
And meanwhile, though, they're spending all this money on legal fees, right?
No question.
And they're aware of that, but still the emotions override logic?
Well, sometimes, and I tell my clients, look, here's the deal. The money you spend with me is money you're going to want in about 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You need this money. So let's minimize the involvement of the lawyers as much as you can. And so now we have this thing down here called what's called collaborative divorce, where you go through and the very first thing you do is just gather all the records you can, and you try to sit down and work it out without court intervention first. I mean, the court will direct you sometimes and may get a third party involved. Okay. The collaborative divorce has helped quite a bit over the years.
Like a mediator, essentially? Or?
Yeah, almost like a mediator, exactly.
And so they have to sit in the room across from each other?
Yeah, sit in the room across from each other. Now, you can go into separate rooms, okay, but you're in the same building, and you're forced to sit there and try to work out an agreement.
Those who are not divorced, who imagine that if they were in that situation, they could do so reasonably, maybe even lovingly. Do you see that happening?
Not really. I mean, and the biggest shame of it is when you have kids involved, right? I mean, that's what is amazing in terms of the emotion for divorce and what's unfortunate, because those are the folks you really need to protect and shield from all the rancor that's associated with divorce.
Why is March such a divorce month itself?
Well, it's sort of a natural progression from the hangover from Christmas. A lot of folks don't want to get divorced or plan a divorce around the Christmas holidays or the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So what they'll do is they'll wait to make a final decision about divorce, and they'll wait until usually January. So I call January sort of the decision month. February is the planning month. And then March is the execution month. That's when you actually file. So it takes a while to get your ducks in a row and get your plan together.
Okay, you're saying it's a good idea to. Well, when you say get your ducks in a row, what does that involve?
Well, if someone comes to see me, the first question I ask is, how do you pay your bills? What are your bills? Do you have a separate bank account? Do you have a joint bank account? If we cut the cord tomorrow and you don't have any income, what are you going to do? And you go down and get temporary orders, and the judge puts that in place. But I'm talking about what are your immediate needs and how are you going to fulfill those? Who's going to make decisions about where the child goes to the doctor or where the school-related issues if you have a parent-teacher conference?
So are you saying people need to basically set themselves up so they don't get instantly cut off? Is that it?
Exactly. Set themselves up and make sure they've got something to live on. Make sure that they've squirreled enough away to live on something in the meantime, and get some sense before your spouse goes dark on you of what assets you do have. Where are they operating out of? Do they have accounts here, there, and everywhere? Right. Get an idea of that before you decide to file.
Goes dark, really, just from friend to foe, just like that?
Well, not necessarily dark in terms of friend to foe, although that does happen. More in terms of you won't get any more information without a court order.
Gotcha. Well, the divorces you've seen, what's your conclusion? What's the typical cause? Where is it that people go astray?
Two issues. Number one is money, and number two is difficulty or, let's see, we'll just call it misunderstandings with how to raise your kids.
Okay, really, the
differences
children.
of opinion. Yeah, children and money.
And what about that interpersonal stuff? That doesn't seem to be the underlying issue?
Oh, there's definitely incompatibility issues, but I think most people, when they finally hit the wall, it's over money or child-rearing issues.
It's Tim Hoch, a divorce attorney, HochLawFirm.com, and March is, in fact, known as Divorce Month. So, well, that's what it is. Tim, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.